Hello, I'm Michael Redmond, professional Go player. In this video, I'm going to do a commentary of the third game of the LG Cup. In the first game, Ke Jie took territory and he just saved all the weak groups and won that game. In the second game, Ke Jie took territory again and he almost got killed in the center of the board that time and eventually fell behind in territory. And I did live commentaries for both of those games. With the final third game, I was not able to do that. So instead of that, I'm going to give you a short commentary of the game here. So in this third game, Ke Jie has black. And he starts playing for territory again. So this is sort of his style. He's very good at handling the weak groups. And Shin Minjun, throughout the series, Shin Minjun was playing a very solid but powerful game. So this didn't quite work in the first game. And in the second and third games, it was working better. White plays an approach move, black plays one, and white pressed here. So it becomes an interesting situation here where both sides played this move to press down on the white stone. Well, in this case, it's the white stone. So this is a point where white, Shin Minjun, played this move, and I would have trouble choosing this move because it is a bit submissive. When both sides have played this shape and white has played that pincer on the left side and black can handle it by playing the capping move, I feel that it's okay for black. It's probably an fairly even result, but with white, I would be tempted to push through here. So I'll talk about this just a little bit. This is a move I've actually played in some of my games. The most common variation that comes from this is when white pushes a few times on the fifth line here, and will be able to capture the black stones on the left. The problem is that white's question is whether white goes after them immediately or continues pushing from the top. So if white plays here, white will be able to, well, it is a ko actually. Black can play here and play here, and this becomes the key point. Well, actually, white will push through once. And in a normal race to capture, white will have a one move advantage. So let's just go through that quickly. Something like this. And black has no way to continue. So if black plays here, white plays here. Of course, black would not fill all these liberties. It would lose potential. So black will leave it at this point. Actually, black does have a ko, because black can play the double hane here, and this would create some kind of a ko. So although it would be a bit desperate, this would be, it could be potentially a bit of a headache for white. So this would be okay for black, because black playing this point on the outside, curling around at 18 here is a vital point. One of the main variations of this joseki, you might say. And white's other choice would be to push on the fourth line, on the fifth line. And this is the move that I would play, and black can capture the corner this way. The idea here is that when white pushes here, and if black answers, then it's going to be much better for white towards the center when we get into the same variation where black is likely to lose those stones on the left. In this case, curling around in the center is not going to be forcing for black. So maybe black's going to capture the corner, and this is pretty big, but white also gets the outside here. And a variation somewhat like this, and white plays here. White has a very strong position towards the center. In this board position, the cut here is not going to be a threat, so that's pretty efficient for white. So I would say this is an even result, and I would be probably tempted to play this way. But Shin Minjun just calmly crawled underneath. That's probably typical of his style. He doesn't do anything that flashy. He's a very stable and actually very powerful. When you're stable in the beginning, you do have strong positions to attack from. So that's sort of his style. Bumping against here and curling around, another thick move. White does have a very nice position here on the left side. So that's a good position there that white has. And there is some potential for white to attack this black group, which is not so strong. It's not really in that much danger when black has a settled shape on the right here. This shape here is settled. It means that it'll be relatively easy for black to run away. In the game, black pincered here, and white played here. Now, locally, this is not such a good move. And in fact, white has other moves that white would want to try. Like, for instance, pressing here locally is probably the better move. But there's a reason for this move. This move is actually a ladder breaking move for the following move that white played here. And it's sort of spelled out in the game. And the ladder I'm talking about, for instance, there's a number of ladders that can happen, but for instance, if black extends here, white will probably play this way, but then black will curl once, and this is going to set up a ladder. So without that, let's just mark the exchange in the upper left. Without that exchange, this ladder would favor black, but with that exchange, the ladder favors white. So I'll say that that's why white played that exchange in the upper left. And in the game, black, in this case, when the ladder is bad for black, black is going to sacrifice this stone to get a good position on the right side. So it's an even result. This is a good move where white is capturing the one black stone, this black stone I've marked here, and also preparing to invade the right side. Push through once and then here. So this was a solid way to surround the right side. And up to this point, the game is fairly close. White plays this exchange. This is obviously threatening to play here next. That would capture the corner. So black answers. And white played here. So white's final move is enlarging white's left side. So it's starting to make a boundary here. And also moving towards the black territory in the upper right. So it's a double purpose move there. And Ke Jie played here and then here. So this was an interesting way to play. In the first game also, he played a unexpected move on the 5th line. And in this game also, he played an unexpected move here on the 5th line. This was really strange to me. Actually, it did not seem to get good results with the Go playing AIs. I think it was, when I looked at Kadago, it wasn't even putting a mark on this point. And it was interesting to see the suggested moves because Kadago started with wanting to play here. So this was the main idea. And I think one idea with this move is to play here at some point and cut off that white stone to the right. And also, for instance, if white answers with something like this, black is going to start moving into the territory and just play some forcing moves here. So this seems to be the plan with this move. If white plays here, then black jumps out. And with the threatened, not the cut, this move, the threatened cutting move here, and if white backs down with a connection, then black can play on this side. The general idea is to not only to reduce white's territory on the left, but to start building in black's area on the right. And of course, the stones in the lower left are weak, but they're not going to die outright. The whole lower half of the board, it's a relatively small area because both sides have fairly solid positions all over the place. White's not going to get much territory out of this attack, so provided black can survive, it's not going to be a big deal. But actually, after a while, Katago also was considering this move. This is the easier to play variation, where white is going to answer somehow, and black is just going to leave it. Something like this. This would be a fairly even game also. This would look more like something that I would come up with when invading at this point. Although it actually is a fairly forceful move that looks at this weak point in white's position, I might have trouble finding this move in an actual game. In the game black played here, this did not really reduce the white territory very effectively. In fact, when black plays from the center and comes in from this direction, this exchange of these stones can potentially help white surround the territory. So maybe it wasn't very good. In the game, white plays here. Now this is a point where I would like to go into a bit of detail. And there's a number of ways to attack this corner. And I'd say the trickiest one is the 3-3 point, because there is some danger that this 3-3 point is going to die when black plays here and white plays here. For instance, if black does something like this, you have to have a very exact calculation of whether white has room to live. So you have to be very confident, and it depends on various subtle factors, like the position of this stone or the strength of these stones on the side. All of that comes into consideration. You have to read it out very carefully. So I'm not really going to suggest that you should play this way. I will show you one variation. For instance, if black cuts here and curls, this is also locally a very strong move, but white can cut here and curl around. And with the curling move here, this is not going to be... So for instance, if white plays here and throws in here, then it will be a ko. So white can get a ko at least there. But to go to the more likely, the easier to play moves. First I'll show you this one, which was not played in the game. When white plays here, if black plays here, white's idea actually is to play the diagonal move here, which has become a very popular way to invade the two-space corner enclosure. And black will probably play here. And we often see this kind of variation in professional games. And white would probably jump out into the center. In this case, white's not so crazy about invading the upper side when we compare that to invading the upper right corner. The upper right corner seems to be bigger, and the upper side was not really going to be black's territory anyway. So that's probably why white did not choose this variation. But this variation is going to be valid in various game positions. This diagonal move was actually an innovation that came after we had what we call Go AIs, superhuman computers who started showing us moves like this. So it came to us after that. In the game, white played here. And the idea with this move is that if black covers from above, white can jump to the 3-3 point and live with this variation, in which curling on the upper side or capturing a stone on the right side, these are interchangeable. So white has a nice solid life. It's a satisfying life for white. And in the game, black played more forcefully, covering here, trying to attack white. When white played here and black bumped against, this simplified the position, but it was maybe a fairly important mistake on black's part. So this was where we start to see the score going up for white. And it was a thick move, but a bit slack. So black could have played here. So first of all, I'll talk about why black does not play this move. White will play the hanging connection. And with all these cutting points, black has to do something about them. So black might connect here, and it will be very easy for white to live in the corner. So that's why black does not cover. It's actually better for black to jump to the side, which is stopping white from escaping towards the left side. And it's also reducing the danger in the corner by refusing to give white a forcing move at this point. So if white still tries to get to the 3-3 point, in this case, it's not so good for white. For instance, if white goes after the one stone, black can cut here. And this is a bit painful for white. For instance, if white connects here, the whole thing is going to die. So this was very bad. Actually, white might play here, but also in this case, black will cover once and play very strongly. So this would be relatively difficult for white to get a good shape here, and it would be a stronger way for black to play. In the game, black played fairly thickly, but this makes it easy for white to live on the side. So in the game, white did do a lot of curling, but this was originally a black area, so it's okay for white to have stones on the second line. So this is plenty of white stones in a line on the second line. It's perfectly alive now. After this, white actually has a territorial advantage. So this is after Ke Jie having an advantage in territory in the first two games of this series. In this third game, Shin Minjun already has a territorial advantage here with a nice solid territory on the left side, which is close to 30 points, and then smaller territories in 3 spaces. So that's something like 45 points. Black needs close to 50 points to be able to win the game, or at least have a close game. Black's territory on the right side is less than 30 points at this time. Black could play at this point, which is important point, which would make it probably more than 30 points. But then black has a territory in the upper left and in the lower right. Both of them are smaller than 10 points. So it looks like white does have an advantage in territory here. In the game black extended, this was another solid move. My impression of this game is that Ke Jie is he's playing a lot more solidly than he was in the previous games, and it didn't work out so well for him. So maybe he was a bit tight in this game. And white cuts here. This move, it could have been more simply here, and this also would have gotten a good score from the computer. But cutting here, Shin Minjun has a plan, and he's going to make trouble for black in the upper left corner. So we're going to see that happen now. White starts with this. Black does want to push against this move, and white captures the 1 stone. So this is already a threat against the corner. Locally, if white cuts here, black would be able to cut here and capture the 3 stones, for instance. So that's why white had to add a stone there, and white added it here. So this got rid of that threat of the cut here, and it is threatening to cut in the center next to capture that black stone. So that would be big. And black answered here, and then here. Now white played the cut here. So this was very cleverly put together by Shin Minjun. This cut also has to do with the attack on black's upper left corner, as we shall see. After playing this exchange, now white attacks the upper left corner. Locally, this is a ko. It's a ko in that if black plays here and continues with this move. Now, this is a basic life and death problem. If white plays here, black will play here, and we have this ko. But if you can find a way to live, that's probably better than the ko, right? So at this point, Ke Jie finds a tesuji, a clever move here. He plays down once. He didn't really need to play that exchange. He could have started with this move. It would have been the same thing. Maybe he, objectively, maybe he lost a few points. But he plays here, and this sets up this move, which is forcing. And this means that instead of playing this move for a ko, which would be like this, he's going to find a way to avoid the ko and live unconditionally. So the idea is that if white takes the 2 stones, black's going to play here. If white cuts on this side, black just wins. Black has an extra outside liberty here, so black's going to win this one. And if white cuts on the other side, white has no way to fill black's liberty in the corner. So that's good for black too. However, Shin Minjun was waiting for Ke Jie to play this tesuji so that white could counter with this move, which is a very severe attack on black in the center. The idea with this move is that if black cuts here, white's going to take 2 stones. And black has to return to the center, after which black's stones in the corner are just dead. And that would be very big. Otherwise, if black uses this Tetsuji to live, now this will decimate black in the center of the board. This would be just terrible. So that wasn't a good idea. In the game, black covers from the outside, white connects. And black has so many cutting points that black cannot yet connect on the first line. If black connects here, white can just capture some stones on the outside. And black's not even alive yet. So that didn't work very well. So black had to connect here. That was forcing. And white continues with this move. So this basically is putting black in terrible shape on the outside. Even if black connects here, white will just take the 2 stones. Black has to back up in the corner, and white gets to play this move. This is so painful. This would be just like the game. And black's stones in the center of the board are weak in an area where black was sort of hoping that this whole area was going to be a black territory. In fact, at some point, it was important for black to play a stone here to start staking out that area. Black never got around to playing that move. It means that white's going to continue somewhere around here, and it looks like white even has potential to attack black in the center. So this was a great success for white, and it all happened because of this Atari that white played at 4. That made a big difference there. And the whole sequence, starting with white's cut at this point, it's all sort of synchronized. It all has to do with the life and death of that black group in the upper left, and white's setting up some extra profit in the center of the board by playing that cut at the mark point first, and then having this forced sequence where black is going to live in the corner, but yeah, black does live there. But white in return is going to get this forcing move, which is still very, very painful for black. And white jumped out. So the game continued, of course. Actually, Shin Minjun could have won more easily, probably. He did play 1 or 2 questionable moves at the end of the game, but he was ahead throughout. And in the end, Shin Minjun won by 3.5 points. And there was no point after this where black was ahead. So after this, I'd say white has a 1 game. So in this commentary, I'm going to stop here. Everyone else who did videos about this game was showing Ke Jie crying after the game. It was something special, I guess. Ke Jie actually cries a lot. He cried when he played AlphaGo. Even as he was crying, actually, he was talking about the game to his fans watching because they were taking a video of it. And he very sincerely congratulated Shin Minjun on his play in the game. He came out and said that it was just superbly played by Shin Minjun, as far as I understand the translation, and admitted that he was outplayed in this game. So I think that sincereness of Ke Jie is what makes him so well liked. I sort of respected that, and I focused on that more than his tears after the game. So this was the 3rd game of the LG Cup, and with this win, Shin Minjun became the champion this time. So congratulations. It was his first time to win the LG Cup. And if Ke Jie had won, it would have been his 9th international win, I think. So thank you for watching, and I'll cut it off here. They did play the entire Yosei, the entire endgame, but already white has a 1 game. Thank you for watching, and sign up for more videos like this. Thank you.